What are your first thoughts on Tears of the Kingdom? Like, just overarching thoughts.
It lived up to the hype as a start.
Mm.
I've been waiting for this for since Breath of the Wild and hoping that they would update it. It feels like what I wanted Breath of the Wild to be.
I'm not shocked by that, especially considering your kind of overall thoughts of Breath of the Wild. It's almost like everything that you wanted in Breath of the Wild, they specifically went and added to Tears of the Kingdom. The map's more dense.
Pretty much.
They added dungeons. There's more of a
like
story.
Actual dungeons.
Yeah, the story's more linear if you want it to be.
The story actually affects the world.
For me, like overall, I think it's great, and I just love that it's more of the same still. Like they didn't do what you just mentioned and then completely change the style of the game. I'm able to play, just all over the place, random places of the map at random times with no destination in mind and still feel like it's similar to Breath of the Wild. The next thing is, what do you think about the new powers? How do you feel about those?
So, I guess we could just go over them one at a time, right?
Yeah, let's do it.
So let's start with Fuse, the most fun one.
Yeah.
I mean, the creativity in this game is absolutely ridiculous,
off the charts,
and we're talking Master Hand. That's what. I'm
specifically
about.
Master Hand. Yeah,
like building
vehicles,
stuff,
right?
Building vehicles, just being like, I just gonna brute force this. I know for me personally, I'm sure there's a good way to do it in the tutorial of the game. When you get to the ice place, like you get towards the top and then there's just these ice walls that you can't climb.
Yeah.
And I was like, I don't know what I'm supposed to do here. I got frustrated, couldn't figure it out, didn't want to spend the time figuring it out. So I grabbed 2 axes, ran all the way back to the forest.
Yeah.
Chopped like every tree, fused them together to like this 20 log bridge. And just carried that all the way across and just started like pole vaulting myself up all of the
That's
legends.
Hilarious. The way you were supposed to do it, there was a piece of the wall behind the waterfall that was just rock. You can climb up.
No, but I knew there was gonna be something that I missed.
I also got stuck at that part too, so I won't judge you. Like it took me a second. Like I was like, well, let me see if there's a secret back here, and that's when I saw it.
I just said fuck it, let's build.
But that's actually how I feel about that power. I feel like it's very similar to Breath of the Wild, where one of the biggest things about Breath of the Wild that was great was that it was creative. You could use your tools to solve a problem in a way that someone else probably wouldn't. Like you had very open-ended solutions to a lot of things, and I think Master Hand continues that. Like you have infinite solutions to a lot of these problems. Like even watching you stream, when I popped into your stream, I was shocked how different you did things compared to how I did them.
So over the top complicated for no reason.
No, but the thing is, like, and that's the crazy thing. You could be complicated in different ways. That's the craziest thing to me. Like, it's so creative that, like, I had a stupid ass solution. I was like, oh, this is probably the stupid way to do it. And then I saw your solution. I'm like, that's also a stupid ass solution. But both work. And it's just really cool that it works that way. I'm really impressed by that. I'm really impressed that they were able to keep that creativity. And so for Fuse, honestly, it solves the exact complaint. So I didn't personally hate the fact that weapons got destroyed in Breath of the Wild. It wasn't the greatest, and it was annoying, and I definitely hogged a bunch of weapons in my inventory and was scared to use them. But this literally solves the problem of weapons degrading, because you can build a really strong weapon on the fly just by throwing down random crap and fusing it together. And then it also added really cool creativity to the fact that, like the magic rods, remember we were talking about that, how when I first got 2 magic rods, I was like, wait, there's no magic here. What do I do? And it basically forced me into trial and error until I figured out, oh, this is how you make the magic happen. Like, the fact that they considered that when building the Fuse feature was so sick to me. They just really thought about how gamers were going to play.
I do love that they really made it so all of these items have some sort of use. Mm-hmm. Super cool. And I do like that, like you said, you can build weapons on the fly. That's convenient. It does kind of alleviate some of my major complaints of Breath of the Wild of like, I have weapons, they're breaking constantly, but now I can make them stronger. Now I can make the elemental weapons whenever I want, so I don't need to hoard them. My problem is...
We got a problem.
This is my problem. They got rid of the bomb glyph. So this is going to like kind of segue into a different issue I have. they don't give you enough bomb flowers. They don't give you
yeah.
money to buy bomb flowers. So when you don't have bombs, you then have to use all of your weapon slots just attaching rocks and boulders to be able to break these objects that before you just like LOL bomb.
Bomb. So
and now you have to fucking spam your inventory with rock weapons rather than actual weapons, so you're still stuck with just a few weapons on hand that you can really use for fighting.
That actually just reminds me of a specific part of when I was streaming, because as you said it, like when you point out why don't you just use bomb arrows, and I was like, 'cause I want to save them. And I get what you're saying, 'cause that's annoying sitting there with the hammer. A part of me is like, it's kind of cool because it forces you to, because they always keep rocks around. Like every time they do that, there's rocks around for you to pull. But I will agree, it's annoying that I have to now keep a weapon that's not fused around in case I get to a point where I need a rock item. Which is basically the same as keeping a rock item around.
For small areas where there's like a couple things to break, no problem. I encountered a labyrinth. And when I say labyrinth, I mean it went all the way. Spoilers for people that don't want stuff.
They're watching the Tears of the Kingdom video.
Locations. Yeah. But so it went all the way from the starting town, underneath that, all the way to the castle. There's a hidden passage, and every step of the way, there's those boulders you have to break.
You gotta keep your weapons ready. That's called secrets, Casey.
But like, so they even give you some weapons while you're down there. Like sometimes when you break a rock, there'll be like a rusted claymore there.
Yeah, and then you can take that.
Even with that, I was so low on resources. it was like 2 hours worth of tunneling through this thing. And it sucked. And if I had bombs, it wouldn't have been a labor. It would have been an enjoyable secret.
But a part of me feels like it's intentional, because they knew that's how they intended you to do it, which is why they kept giving you the swords. Like they didn't intend you to use bomb arrows. Like sure, you could use them, but they intended you to specifically do that. You hate it, but that clearly was their intention.
Yeah.
It's obvious that was like when you were telling me to use the bomb arrows, I'm like, I could, but like it's clear by them giving you weapons, they want you to do this. Like this is how they intend you to play this, or the base way to play it. Obviously, the best thing about the creativity is you found a way. You thought, well, the bomb arrows explode, and it worked. I didn't even think about using them honestly until you said it. So that's kind of the cool thing about But yeah, I can see why it's annoying. If you're like, this is not fun, this is boring, I'm constant, because it's not like it's a challenge. The challenge is your patience, which it's never fun when a game challenges your patience.
And like I said, it was like 2 hours.
Yeah, so that's a real patient challenge. I guess after Fuse was Rewind. Is that what they call it? No, there's a name for it.
Yeah.
Recall.
Whatever it is. Recall. Whatever.
Yes.
It's cool in premise. Not as widely usable as I expected.
Yeah.
You can't target enemies with it.
Yeah, that sucks.
So that was kind of a letdown. But, there were times that, big goblin dude just runs over, grabs a red barrel, and throws it, and I'm like, hold up, send that back.
Remix.
So like there are cool moments with it. It's definitely meant more for puzzles than combat, which I feel like they kind of missed the ball there. They could have had it for both.
Yeah, it could have been way more combat use. Well, I guess it would be super OP if you could. That's kind of the challenge there. I know it would be OP if you could just rewind enemies, because why fight them?
Because they made it you could do it so fast, too. Yeah. Like, there's not really a huge cooldown before you can use it again.
You can just use it over and over, which is probably necessary for puzzles. They probably could have figured a way, like, there's a limit on enemies, on living beings, but not a limit on this thing. But yeah, I do agree. I was very disappointed when I found out I couldn't rewind enemies. Although I love it for puzzles. Every time there's a rewind puzzle, I'm always like, oh, this is gonna be fun. Or even if a puzzle doesn't require rewind, I will find a way to use rewind. Yeah, like I'll literally put like a platform up, let it drop, step on it, rewind it, and then it'll bring me up. Because
that's clever.
That'll work.
I like that.
Yeah, it's like just little dumb stuff like that. So I love that it adds to the creativity in the game, but it definitely doesn't add to the combat in any way. Which I guess a lot of the powers, now that we say that, the outside of creating the weapons with the first Fuse, Ultrahand doesn't really add to combat much.
Yeah.
Well, no, because that's fuse when you add stuff to your shields and swords, and neither does going up really. So yeah, in the last game, now I'm starting to understand what you don't like about it. The last game, the powers all added to combat, like even being able to lift up objects and drop them on enemies, added to the combat.
Yeah.
None of these powers really do it outside of fuse, and technically fuse itself is not adding to the combat. It's you creating a weapon in the weapons to combat.
Yeah, which is cool as hell.
Yeah, it's cool. Nothing wrong with that.
That's fine.
But I can see what I kind of get at why what you're noticing about the powers. They don't add to combat much. They're more for the puzzles, which isn't a bad thing. Love it. I love that. But that's a good observation. Yeah. Yeah, recall's cool for puzzles. Not useful much outside of that. And I'll start on this next one, on the infamous one. I can't even remember its name. Ascend. I can't even remember to use it. That's the only power in the game that constantly, bro. I've played 20 something hours. It's so funny because I'll literally get into a puzzle. I'm like, I don't know what to do. There's no items. There's nothing. And then I'll have that random moment like 5 minutes in where I'm like, ascend. I'll look up and I'm like, oh yes, this is a power. It's the weakest of the Link and definitely the least useful power in the entire game.
Yeah, I'll say same. There are definitely puzzles that like I start doing and I get to things by doing unconventional methods. And then when I get there, there's like, it's very obvious that the way back is Ascension. And I'm like, oh, fuck. And I go back. And then I realize I could have just very easily gotten there as well with Ascension. Like I could have used it to just go back and forth, and I just didn't.
No.
I'm starting to use it more, and the reason is the Gerudo quest line and town. There's a lot of use for it.
Okay, so there's places
there's a lot of play with it. So I think going forward, I'll think about it more. Yeah. Just because I've been forced to use it. But so much.
I wonder why, because it's not just us. Like I saw a meme the other day, like someone tweeted, and a lot of people were liking it and saying same. And I was like, okay, it's not just me. I wonder why that power is so forgetful. maybe because it doesn't have really much utility. Like it's very situational.
It's a weird thing not to think of. Like you don't look at a platform and be like,
I'm gonna go.
Can I get underneath that? You look at a platform and say, "How do I get on top of that?"
Yeah, it's a cool power. Like the puzzles with it, I've liked. I will say, like one of my favorite ones. Yeah. One of my favorite what are they called? Not trials. The little mini dungeons.
Shrines.
The shrines. Thank you. One of my favorite shrines in the game was the one that's called "Don't Be Afraid to Fail." And that one used kind of all the powers, but it starts off with Ascension. It's a lot of Ascension play. And
I did that one.
And basically your goal, just so it's not super spoilery, but your goal is technically to mess up. You want to mess up on purpose in that shrine. And it's just cool. And I'm just like, this is a cool use of Ascension and a cool use of just the mechanics in the game in general.
Yeah.
Yeah, those are the 4 powers. How do you feel about the game?
You want to talk about the 5th power?
Yeah, the power of surprise. I don't have the 5th power yet.
Can't wait for you to go back and find it.
Okay. So no talking about. We'll talk about the 4 main powers, I guess. The ones that everyone will universally have at all moments.
Yeah, that's fair.
I guess, how do you feel about it in comparison to Breath of the Wild? Like overarching. I know we kind of said that.
Better. Yeah. Breath of the Wild has some cool ideas, and I feel like this, again, just to reiterate it, it capitalized on those ideas and filled in a lot of the gaps I feel like it had. I do also... It's also very interesting playing through this from the lens of already playing Breath of the Wild. Because I'm seeing all these towns, all these places I've been to that are familiar, but now they're different. Yep, slightly different. And like they're like the vibes are off, and like that adds to like the oh shit, like the world's fucked right now. Yeah, like something went wrong. So I wonder if I would have liked this game as much if there was no Breath of the Wild. I see what you mean. Like if it just started off with like this messed up world. If this was it, like would it be as good?
Yeah.
And I don't think it would be.
No, it definitely benefits from having Breath of the Wild as a base, which isn't a bad thing, but it definitely benefits from that continuation of the story overarching. Because Breath of the Wild has no story because it was started from a point of basically no story. It's very base, blank slate. This game had the benefit of being a sequel and now taking the little bit of a slate it was given and giving it a deeper story of like, now that you know these things happened last game, let's fill it all in and give you so much more detail and information about what's happening in this world.
And going into this, I fully expected this to be the Majora's Mask to Ocarina of Time, and I am absolutely feeling that. I feel like I'm getting what I expected and what I wanted, and there's multiple reasons why I feel like this is the Majora's Mask to the Ocarina of Time. This is Breath of the Wild's Majora's Mask, and story reasons kind of
are the story
build
beats
that.
Okay.
Yeah, there's story beats, there's mechanics in the game, in the world, like things that you do affect the world, and like you're slowly saving the world and fixing things as you go.
Yeah.
And that was like kind of the whole thing about Majora's Mask. World's fucked. It's the apocalypse.
Save it.
But everything that you do makes that section of the world better. So it has that same vibe.
I wonder if the developers definitely looked at those games when developing this. Like, look at that sequence of events, because that's the only other time they've done a sequel on the same console, right? Yeah. The only time the mainline Zelda. I mean, I'm not talking like Game Boys or anything. I'm talking like the mainline.
Yeah.
They've never done that other than those two.
Yeah.
Oh no, I guess technically
Yeah,
the original Legend of Zelda and Legend of Zelda 2 were both on NES. Okay, so but they haven't done it much. They've done it sparingly.
And that wasn't exactly a success, and it also didn't reuse assets.
Yeah, it was totally
a
different
brand new game. Yeah.
Yeah.
But this is the same thing. It reused a lot of the assets and just added on to it.
Yeah, just added more. One thing I like is that, so I guess complaint plus positive, like not saying like I hate the game because of it, but more so one thing I didn't initially enjoy super too much was how much they and I wouldn't say how much they gatekeeped. They gatekeeped the glider behind story progression, and that annoyed me because I just wanted to jump straight into, okay, I finished the Shrine Island, the first island, let me just get to the game. And I was exploring a bunch before, and I didn't even start following the story at all. I was just like, let me go explore. And I was annoyed. I was like, do they just have the glider? I swear they showed the glider in the trailers. And then I realized it's because I didn't continue the story once I got back to the back to land. And I wasn't the biggest fan of that. But once I got the glider,
definitely agree.
I loved the game a lot. I loved it a lot more.
I can agree to that. As somebody that even kind of, I didn't immediately beeline it for the story, but like I stayed in that general area and was kind of focused on that. And I agree, it took too long to get the glider back. That should have been like almost an immediate return.
Or at least right when you get off the island, like when they have you jump the first time. Like,
that at the latest.
Yeah.
But it could have been good on the island as well.
Because good on the island too. But I kind of get why they didn't want it on the island. Because I feel like they wanted to force you to use the new mechanics to get comfortable with them.
Yeah.
I think that was the idea. But I was annoyed that now that I'm back on the planet, I wasn't really annoyed, but I didn't even focus story. I literally first thing went opposite direction of the story. And
of course.
Yeah, you know how I played this game. And it's just like, I felt annoyed because I was like, I remember we were talking, you were like, yeah, you kind of have to go to the story. And I was like, I have to go do the story. So I went back, did that mission, and the mission wasn't like a short one. It was some length to it. You had to go all the way up to talk to the guy at the castle, come back.
Yep.
And I just wasn't a fan of that. But once I got it,
no, I agree.
I loved it. I loved it so much.
Yeah.
The map is so much bigger. Like, it's funny. People were like, oh, it's the same map. They're just reselling you the same game. But the map is triple the size. They literally tripled the map size. Or almost triple, because obviously the Sky Islands aren't.
They at least 2x'd it.
Yeah,
at least.
At minimum 2x'd it. And then even the parts of the map that, as you were mentioning, were familiar, feel so different. Something about them feel new.
A lot.
Yeah, they changed a lot. So it's funny to hear all those complaints people had before the game come out. And that's kind of the thing about criticizing games before they release. That's why it's a little bit silly, because you don't know what's in the game until you play the game.
Yeah,
so
like you can only speculate so much from trailers.
Yeah, exactly. Like clearly they weren't going to show you everything, because as someone who's played a lot of it so far, they did not show you everything. They did not show you a lot of things.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. So it's just interesting that they tripled the map almost.
Overall, I'm on the scale.
Ooh.
What would you rate it?
Well, it's hard since I haven't finished the game or done anything story. But so far, from my personal enjoyment, just how much I'm enjoying the game, I'd say 10 out of 10. I think it's like literally a perfect game. So far, from how much fun I'm having and just spending hours and not even realizing they're passing.
Yeah, that's fair. I'm leaning more towards a 9 or 9.5 at the moment. And that's almost solely because of the frustration of like lack of resources at certain points.
Yeah.
And like it's challenging me in a good way, but at the same time in a test my patience way sometimes. And it's like, you know, maybe later on in the game when you build up resources it is less of an issue, but right now the way it stands, I'm going to say 9.5. But if later on it feels fine, 10 easy.
Do you want to address?
That's like my biggest gripe.
Do you want to address some negatives, I guess, in that case? I know we kind of already did, but do you want to have like a section just so?
I mean, that's my biggest gripe. I mean, if you got a bunch of negatives, go ahead and list them off.
This game, I can't pet dogs.
Yeah.
No, I'm kidding.
Yeah, I mean that is an oversight.
I can hit dogs, but I can't pet dogs. No.
Some people might say that's a plus.
Oh, you are animal abusers. Like, wow, this is just like real life.
PETA has entered chat.
Yeah, I know. I'd agree with what you said about the resources. I'd agree about that semi-negative, but it's not necessarily just the resources. It's interesting how much. It's not a negative. I guess this is the negative. This is just like kind of a middle. This game somehow is way more difficult, and I don't know why. The puzzles aren't difficult.
Yes.
The puzzles aren't difficult. But the enemies, I feel like I die so many times and it feels unfair. I don't know what the fuck it is.
I've played Master Mode on Breath of the Wild. That was my start. I didn't play the regular. I played way later than everybody. I started Master Mode. And that was challenging. Sure.
Yeah.
But I have not died nearly as much in that playthrough than I did within the first like 3 hours of this game. That entire playthrough versus the first 3 hours.
It's like I'm getting bodied like constantly, and I'm like, I don't know why. I'm like, bro, I swear they changed the timing on the flurry. You know, when you dodge and it slows down time. That timing is way tighter because I feel like I'm dodging perfectly, and then I just get hit in the head. To die.
Dude, I agree. They dialed up the difficulty on that to 11.
Yeah, it's not a bad thing.
Like, good. It's good because combat was like a little too easy. Because even in Master Mode, I wasn't really struggling.
Yeah.
The struggle was keeping the weapons from breaking.
Yeah.
The enemies weren't challenging.
No.
But this, it's like, no, they beat your ass.
Yeah, they will body you. Having 4 hearts, like it almost makes hearts necessary too, which is cool. Because I spammed stamina originally in Breath of the Wild and did very little hearts until I wanted the Master Sword. In this game, I
almost got like 2 full rings of stamina in Breath of the Wild before a single heart.
Yeah, but in this game, I'm like, maybe I should go to more hearts so enemies can stop one-shotting me.
Yeah,
they Dark Souls did.
They
Dark Souls.
They did. I forced myself to get 1 ring of stamina out of obligation.
Yeah, same.
And then started doing hearts, but like. I found this crazy armor early on, like the Phantom chestplate.
Oh, yeah, the one that looks cool.
Gives you plus 8 to your armor and ups your attack. And then I have Reeves on that gives me plus 4 to my armor, and then like my helmet was like a plus 2 or plus 3 to armor. And I was still getting one shot barely.
Oh wow!
So I was still getting one.
So
shot.
It is Dark Souls.
Yeah, I don't know what happened.
I don't hate it. I hate that I brought this up during the negative portion. It just came to my mind.
it's like a good frustration.
Yeah, it's a good fight. And I was like, damn, am I just worse at this game than Breath of the Wild?
Dude, I felt the same way. I was like, there's no way I'm this bad at Zelda.
No, I'm like, bro, but it's definitely more. The enemies are smarter, and I actually love that. This is a positive. Ignore I brought up negatives because this isn't a negative. The enemies are smarter.
We try to go negative.
Yeah,
it just comes back to positive.
Back to a positive.
That's how good the game is.
Yeah, exactly. Consider that when you're watching this. But the enemies are so smart, and it's crazy. Like, they're not all of them, obviously. There's still your dumb ones. The bokoblins are still idiots. But like, these enemies will literally surround you when there's a group now and swing from other sides. They don't just come head on and allow you to body all of them at once.
The fucking fire-breathing Lizalfos.
Oh yeah, they will not come near you.
Like, come into a fight where they're head on, both facing me, and they both look at me, hop to my sides, and then start doing their fire breathing and start walking at me at the same time. I'm like,
what do
guys,
I do?
This is not okay.
They had you feeling like Aang fighting the Fire Lord. You had your rock. Like, I don't know what to do.
That wasn't the Avatar.
And then they also stay a distance now. Like those enemies, like the Lizalfos, however the hell you say it.
Lizalfos.
Thank you. They I was fighting the fire one, and it refused to get near me. It kept jumping back and spitting fire.
It stays at the perfect distance for its fire breathing, and that's it.
And it was so ragey. I'm like, this is a basic enemy, but I can't kill him. So it like forced me to use arrows and stuff. The enemies are better. That's just it.
My new MO is hit it in the face and then jump it and beat the shit out of it.
Exactly.
No, like you run up, jump, slam, and just start swinging.
Start bodying him.
And just swinging until it's dead.
But arrows are such a rare resource that I just didn't want to use them yet. That's the thing. It's like at least for me, they're relatively. I only have 40.
They're becoming more rare. Yeah, I have about 40 left too. But in the beginning, they gave me like 200, 300 arrows. They just loaded you up, which I appreciate.
Yeah.
Arrows are a lot less hard to come by than they were in Breath of the Wild.
Oh, 100%. But I still feel like I'm wasting them, and I should save them for like a hard fight.
The alternative, rupees. Fuck getting those.
Rupees, bro.
I'm broke.
They have a whole rupee economy, and it's crazy. You don't even get into rupee for like the first 4 hours of the game. You don't get a single rupee, and I just thought they weren't in the game anymore. And then I get to the planet, and I'm like, oh, there's rupees, but you just never find them. It's not like Breath of the Wild where you got rupees for everything.
Yeah. They're everywhere, but no, this game, no. Yeah. You break barrels, pots, nothing.
No rupees. And then you help the guy, like you have a guy who consistently gives you rupees, and he's like, here goes 20. 20.
That guy has bankrolled everything I've bought.
Facts.
That's like all of the money that I have coming in.
It's literally from that guy. That guy and his company. What is that company called again?
I pray I find that guy when I'm exploring on the road. I'm like, give me 20 rupees,
yeah, please. We're basically employees of whatever the damn company, the president, whatever his name is.
So that was that Hudson, I think.
President Hudson.
He was in Breath of the Wild. It was fun.
Yeah.
I don't know if you did that side quest in Breath of the Wild, did you?
I probably did, because I did pretty much everything.
There's a whole side quest that, like, after you get your house, he was one of the guys that worked on your house, but then he moves to this, like, little plateau, and, like, you help him build a whole town. Like, he slowly asks for more and more resources.
Yes,
you literally build an entire encampment.
Yep. I did that, got the house, and then never went back that area.
I mean, I went there a couple times because they were selling some good stuff sometimes at the stalls there.
I should have gone
back.
But
it's that guy. That guy is the master carpenter with his own business now.
Oh, that's cool.
Yeah.
Oh, God. Yeah, I mean, I guess in summation, we love the game. It's hard to really find real negatives.
It's so good.
The negatives are so small comparison to the actual game itself.
Like I said, the biggest complaint is no bomb glyph and not enough bomb flowers to compensate. That's it. That's my biggest problem.
Yeah. I'm shocked. I mean, I guess more before we end the video. One of the things that I really liked, like one of my biggest, like the thought, we were talking about it when I was streaming and you were watching the stream. I was talking about how this game doesn't really invalidate Breath of the Wild, not because it's not good, but because they went so different on the gameplay features that you could still go back and play Breath of the Wild and still enjoy it, which I really appreciate. Because I was worried that if everything that was in Breath of the Wild was in this game, there would be literally no reason to ever launch that game again. But now I can
definitely agree with that. You can go back and play Breath of the Wild, but and I know that you will because you love that game. But for me, it's very much again the Ocarina Majora's Mask thing. Ocarina was great. I had a fun time. Majora's Mask is everything I wanted from Ocarina dialed up. Yeah. And so that if I'm craving N64 Zelda, I'm playing Majora's Mask 9 times out of 10.
Yeah, but if you have to play Ocarina, you won't hate it. Or you won't feel
like,
oh,
if
you won't
it was,
get bored
if I was
getting
like,
into both.
Yeah, if somebody's like, hey, if I'm on a flight, I'm like, I've got like a few hours to kill, and somebody's like, hey, I've got this 3DS, it only has Ocarina. I'm not going to be mad.
Yeah. And that's what I'm saying. Like, I feel like Breath of the Wild will be that. Like, it won't be, like, if I play it again, and then I play Tears of the Kingdom after, I won't feel like I'm playing the same game over and over and over, because they literally wiped your slate of your powers, like, and added new ones to replace them. I appreciate that they did that, and they didn't just take all the bomb glyphs, add them in, all the the bomb glyphs and all the same powers, the magnetism, the ice. They didn't add that back in and then add in new powers. I like that they said those don't exist anymore. Here's your new ones. Use this.
I can agree to that. Yeah, it definitely doesn't invalidate Breath of the Wild as a good game.
No, it doesn't. And not that I care much, but I do appreciate that they clearly cared enough about the game that they didn't phone it in any way. And they could have phoned it in, used similar powers, and just took those powers and dialed those up. No, they said we're changing the game. Like, fundamentally, if you've played Breath of the Wild, you're not going to instantly get into here and know exactly how this works. You're going to feel like this is a new game again, and you're going to have learn. I spent the time learning, like that enough told me that they put heart and care into this that they just didn't put. That a lot of game developers just don't put into other games, other sequels, And it feels like there's a reason. This isn't what people are saying, $60 DLC. If you're still saying that, you're you're a clown. I'm sorry. There's no other way for me to bend it, break it, twist it. If you're still saying that, you either A, haven't played the game, B, you wear a really big red nose and have a colorful afro, or C, you're just a hater, bro.
Yeah. It's just fine. Be a hater. That's fine.
We're
still gonna have a great time.
I hate myself.
I hate you too.
What? Stop. All right. Well, thank you for watching the video. Go like.
Thank you.
Subscribe.
Video's done. Everybody can go home now.
And tell us how much you hate us. We're gonna go play some damn Halo.